Hey guys, it's Katie at scrappingkatie.ctmh.com, and this is week 6 of the She's Crafty mini paper pad class featuring kits that we have put together a couple of weeks ago, and I'll leave that link down below. So here is a look at what I'm working with. I do have a 5x7 photo of me and my son enjoying some snow cones. Here's a look at the sketch, and then I've pulled out the kit that I made. Now, I do have some kind of, I guess my paper pad is from Bella Boulevard, and it's got a bunch of fruits, sweets, rainbows, bright colors, stuff like that. And so I'm really anxious to couple it with this photo of our snow cones. Now, here's a look at the paper pad. I'm pretty sure I didn't pull out enough. This was one of the very first kits I made, so I may have to pull out some extra sheets from this pad. And then I have got my little embellishment pack with some badge buttons that have fruit, and then these little pebbles, as well as a couple of sheets of paper. Now, I don't have the 12 by 12 base, so I'm going to pull that out, and I think I'm just going to go with white. So right here, I'm going to start speeding things up a little bit. Now, this pattern paper is from an old, close to my heart, Halloween pack. It's called Cats and Bats, I believe. So I've just pulled out my Versamat to make sure that I can line up these 1-inch pieces of black pattern paper. And then for this diagonal stripe, I am going to just center it right over that white daisy cardstock. Now I apologize to those of you who these diagonal stripes are going to mess with. Hopefully it won't mess with you too much. Now I just trimmed down that photo so it will actually go on a 5x7 photo mat. That makes it really easy to just trim it down, and that way I have a white border around my photo. So I'm going to start looking at these pieces that are already pulled, and there are a couple of these little bitty cards that I want to use. Now, some of them just aren't relevant. It has to do with thank you, and um, I think there's one that says I'm so sweet, which one might debate that, but I'm definitely not going to put that on a layout. So I've pulled out this paper pad again, and I messed up on that little circle at the very top, and then I definitely want to pull that pink paper and that red paper to do the pennants behind my photo. So all the circle punches I have are just a little bit too big for that, so I am just going to fussy cut around it. Notice that I'm moving the paper and not my scissors, and that makes it really easy to get that round shape without messing up. So I'm going to start playing with placement to try to figure out where this is all going to go. Now for the pennants behind the photo, I'm just going to trim down a couple of pieces of paper. That red is 4 inches, and then I just cut it in half. A lot of it you won't see. And then although that rainbow paper is really, really cute, I end up not using it. It's just a little bit too white, I think. So on the top one, I'm going to play with it a little bit because I want the hearts to show. You'll be able to see in the still shot, but I want the hearts to kind of be up at the top of that pattern paper. So another paper from that 6x6 paper pad has all these little borders on there. So I'm just going to cut some apart. Some I'm going to use for the title, and then others I'm going to use just for strips and decorations here and there. So those turquoise ones at the bottom, I love those because they match the cups. And I think that we're pretty good on everything. I do want to add another color to the back of this photo. So I'm going to have to do some finagling in here. The patterns aren't going to match perfectly, but at least I have that entire pink around my photo. And then there's just a little bit that I'm going to have to hide either with a strip or embellishments. So on the back of this photo, I am going to use a foam sheet like I usually do. So I'm going to peel that off and go ahead and get that attached. And it's going to make it a lot easier for me to kind of play with placements of embellishments. I did decide to use this turquoise paper up at the top. Now, I don't know if you can see that sketch down at the bottom, but I've kind of flipped the sketch. And so there's definitely something up at the top right, and they're pennants. And so that's why I decided to have that little grouping with those little squares that I cut from the pattern paper. So here I am ready to glue down this photo as well as part of the grouping up at the top. And again, I do want to cut a pennant because that's what's in the sketch. And so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and glue it down. Now that heart one is not glued down yet, and it won't be for a while. So now I'm working on that bottom right element of the sketch, which is where my journaling is going to go. And so I am about to realize that I can glue everything down. And then I decide, no, I think I'm going to add some paint splatters by way of some gloss sprays. So I'm just going to use a turquoise, a green, and an orange. And then you can see I'm just kind of barely shaking and maybe even dabbing some of those directly onto the paper. And I love the way it dries. Here is a look, and I hope you can see the gloss. It really is a fast dry. I did leave this for probably about 30 minutes, and it didn't warp the paper a lot, but it's got that high gloss to it, which I love. So I'm going to go ahead and glue down this photo element directly onto my base page. And then I am going to work for this journaling card or work on this journaling card. Now I am just going to use, instead of a T ruler, I'm just going to use my paper trimmer and then a black journaling pen and just draw journaling marks every 1/4 of an inch. And so I really like that, and especially those turquoise little strips. So I'm going to glue those down, kind of offset them just a little bit, with the longest one being that rainbow one that says follow the rainbow. And then I'm just going to use those little hearts and then a little grouping of a badge button and a little square to hide where I had to piece together that pink pattern paper behind my photo. So for my journaling, I am going to go ahead and attach it down at the bottom. And then I am going to start gluing down everything. Now I did end up using the joy that I had up at the top, simply because I wanted to kind of separate the blues and I wanted to use that juicy badge button, which I thought would be better over a blue square. And then I'm going to use that yellow square that says we make a great pair up at the top in that grouping. That way I kind of keep a visual triangle with those yellows going on. So I am going to add 3D foam tape to that yellow square and attach it up at the top, and then trim off the bottom of that journaling card. And then here is where I've decided to take one of those little cards, and this one said thanks a bunch, but I love all the fruit on it. Since we are dealing with a fruit snow cone, I decided to fussy cut it, and that would be kind of the header of that journaling card. So for my title, I am going to stamp Bahama Bucks on this piece of white scratch paper. And I'm just using Lagoon, which is a close to my heart color, and it matches pretty perfectly with that turquoise paper from Bella Boulevard. So these little stamps that I'm using, it's almost like a typewriter square, I guess you would say. And you can line them all up on a block. I've just chosen to do them singular. And so I've went ahead and stamped the majority of those off camera. And then I'm just going to glue that strip kind of down under my photo. And if you are a follower of mine, you know that I love to leave the edges of my photos not glued down. That makes it really easy for me to poke things underneath, just like that title. So I'm trying to use the embellishments from the little kit that I made. And so I've got these little pebbles. And there are 3 colors that match pretty perfectly, that turquoise, the red, and the pink. So I've used those. And then also from the kit that I made, I had this black sequined ribbon. And so I'm just going to take some up at the top and then some down by that juicy badge button and then that joy square. So I'm going to cut those off and then pull out some micro dots, and they're super tiny, but it makes it really easy to attach that sequined ribbon. And then it also makes it easy for me to put those tails where I want them. Now I did end up taking some of the sequins off of the rest of the ribbon and adding those black sequins here and there, just to kind of make it where I felt like that sequin ribbon was kind of thrown on there. So to make it where it melts into the rest of the page and the elements, I thought by putting single sequins, I guess, everywhere, that it kind of made it look like it was meant to be. So here is a look at the final product. I did try to use those sunglasses that was in my original kit. I just couldn't make it work. It just really didn't fit. Here are some still shots of my layout. For the most part, I did keep true to the sketch. I'm loving those pebbles as well as those gloss sprays and then that black sequin ribbon that I threw on at the last minute. Now don't forget, this is part of a YouTube hop with those playing along with the She's Crafty mini paper pad class. I'll leave all the links down below. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification button.